What is up, guys? Stark here. In today's character spotlight, I am taking a look at Fergus. I'm not even going to pronounce the rest of his name because I will say it wrong, so we're going to just stick with Fergus. And he is a 3-star saber, so he will go up to level 70. And at level 70, he will have 9,786 HP and 7,460 attack. So overall, this will rank him 72nd in HP and 68th overall in attack. If you do decide to max him out completely, though, he will end up with 15,268 HP and 12,096 attack. So now moving on here to his servant skills. First up is going to be the Valor A skill. Now this is a very good buff, and it will increase his own attack for 3 turns, as well as increase his mental debuff resistance for 3 turns. So like I said, this is a really good buff. It'll start with a 10% increase, which isn't all that much, but at level 10 it will go up to a 30% increase for his attack for 3 turns, which is very good. And then for his mental debuff resistance, it will go up to 40% at level 10 as well. So overall, a very solid skill. Next up for his second skill is going to be the Defiant B. Now this will increase his defense for 3 turns, but unfortunately it has a negative side effect where it will decrease his attack buff hit rate for 3 turns. So this means, his attack buffs will have a percentage chance of failing. So that's really weird. It's a 50% chance, which really sucks. But you could kind of combat this with the fact that you could just use it after you use your attack buffs. But sometimes you're gonna get in a situation where you can't do that. So it's a really weird, and I kind of feel like it's an unnecessary buff. He doesn't even have that many attack buffs that will even make use of this. So I don't really understand what they're going for this, and it's not like the defense is really that high. It's 25% for 3 turns, which isn't really that unusual. Maybe if it was like a 50 or a 60%, so his second skill would be purely defense and his first skill would be purely offense, then I can kind of understand it. And maybe if his first skill was the reverse, where it would decrease his debuff success rate or his defense success rate, I don't know. But it's a really weird skill. But overall, like I said, it goes up to 25% level 10 for his defense. It's not a bad skill for the defense. It does give you a pretty solid amount of defense. But overall, it's a very weird skill. And then for his third and final skill, it's going to be the Mind's Eye A, which is again another self buff that will apply evasion for 1 turn, as well as increase his defense for 3 turns. So at level 10, this is going to have a 20% increase to his defense for 3 turns. So you can stack that with his second one, or his second skill, which will give you a higher percentage for your defense reduction. And these both last 3 turns, which is really cool. And then you do have that evasion as well, which really makes him one of the harder sabers to kill. So now moving on here to his class skills, and he is going to have 2 of them. And the first one's going to be the Magic Resistance B, which will increase his debuff resistance by 17.5%. And then his second one is going to be the Riding B, which will increase his quick card effectiveness by 8%. So now moving on here to his Ascension. For his first Ascension, he is going to need 4 saber pieces and 30,000 quantum pieces. For his second Ascension, he is going to need 8 saber pieces, 15 proof of heroes, and 100,000 quantum pieces. For his third Ascension, he's going to need 4 saber monuments, 2 Heart of the Foreign God, 7 octuplet crystals, 300,000 quantum pieces. And then for his final Ascension, he is going to need 8 saber monuments, 3 Heart of the Foreign God, 8 meteor horseshoes, and 900,000 quantum pieces. And then if you do want to max the skill out from 1 to 10, you are going to need 12 gems of saber, 12 magic gems of saber, 12 secret gems of saber, 11 octuplet crystals, 30 proof of heroes, 12 seeds of Yggdrasil, 16 meteor horseshoes, 1 crystallized lore, and 13,600,000 quantum pieces. So now moving on here to his command cards and his Noble Phantasm. First up for his command cards is going to be 1 quick, 1 arts, 3 buster. So this is a perfect deck for him, really. He has the 3 buster cards, so he can do a buster brave chain, which is really what he's going to go for. And then his Noble Phantasm is buster as well, which is going to deal heavy damage to all enemies. It will also decrease their defense for 3 turns, and on the overcharge, it will decrease their debuff resistance for 3 turns. So as you can imagine, this is going to be a very powerful Noble Phantasm, and it's going to be used for wave clears and things like that. So overall, it's a very, very good Noble Phantasm that also has an interlude quest that you can get to power up the overall damage it does by 100%. So, this character is a 3-star, so you should easily be able to get him to Noble Phantasm level 5 quite easily. And then you're just going to be able to do a ton of damage with this character. So now moving on to some of the craft essences you could use. First up is going to be his level 10 Bond Craft Essence, which will be the Brave Warrior's Arousal. And while equipped, this will increase Buster Card effectiveness of all allies by 10% and their Noble Phantasm strength by 10% while in the field. So a very solid option. You're increasing your Buster Card effectiveness and your Noble Phantasm strength. So you're getting the best of both worlds there, which is definitely something that Fergus is going to want. But until you get there, you can go ahead and use the other standard Buster Card increases. So you could use the Verdant Sign of Destruction for the 15% increase, or you could use the Limited Zero Over for the 25% increase. You could also use Kaleidoscope. This is a very good craft essence if you're using Fergus for farming. Just throw that on the character and you're going to have your Noble Phantasm gauge ready pretty much instantly, or instantly if you do have it max limit broken. And then you could just use his Noble Phantasm, clear the wave, move on, boom, farming team's done. If not though, or you need it for like a tougher fight or something like that, you could go ahead and use the Black Grail, which will give you that massive increase to Noble Phantasm strength at the cost of 500 HP a turn. Honestly, that 500 HP is really not that big of a deal, and it's even less of a deal on Fergus because he does have, you know, those 2 defensive skills in his arsenal, so it's definitely going to make it a lot easier to take that 500 HP every single turn. Okay, so now let's go ahead and talk about some of the servants we can use on this character. First up is no surprise to anyone, I'm sure, and that is going to be Waver. Now, Waver is especially useful with this character because he makes up for Fergus's main weakness, and that is the fact that he is going to be very bad at getting his Noble Phantasm gauge filled. You know, he only does have that 1 arts card, which is going to be very awful. You're not going to be able to get too many arts chains with him, so you're going to have to rely on skills for that. And, you know, Waver, all 3 of his skills do that, and you'll increase the Noble Phantasm gauge with all of them. And it's a pretty substantial amount as well, you know, getting a 50% increase. So you're halfway there, even if you don't have any other skills or craft essences for that. And you should be able to get Fergus's Noble Phantasm charge by the end of the fight, even if you have to just recycle Waver's skills a second time to make that happen. He does also have the 2 skills to increase his attack and his defense, which will further combo with Fergus's skills as well as having his first skill increase the crit strength. So overall, Waver is just an obvious, easy choice to use with this character. So next up here is going to be Julius Caesar. So he is a very good character to combo with Fergus. All 3 of his skills work very well with him, much like Waver. His first skill will increase the Noble Phantasm strength, the second skill will increase his attack, and the third skill, when you do the rank up quest for it, will also increase his critical star drop rate, as well as increase his critical strength. So you can do that. Now you do decrease his defense, but Fergus does have a lot of defense to spare, so, you know, it's kind of a fair trade-off, I think. But he does make up for it. You know, you do get stars with Caesar, and Fergus does really lack in the star category. And his Noble Phantasm does also grant you stars instantly, so, you know, you can get those stars and then combo it with his third skill to get even more stars. And then overall, you're just going to be getting a ton of stars, which hopefully Fergus will nab up and be able to use on his turns of burst when you're using your skills. So next up on the list is going to be Joan of Arc, and while the first 2 characters kind of played more into the offensive category, she is going to play more in the defensive category with a hint of offense mixed in. Her first skill is going to be very useful for that, while she grants herself critical stars every single turn. So that's going to be nice for, you know, helping Fergus along. But, you know, the main reason here is just for her survivability with her Noble Phantasm, you know, able to heal and increase defense and all that stuff. And that'll combo with Fergus's defensive skills. So this is more of like a defensive setup, but, you know, it is really nice. You can keep him alive longer, which means you can keep using his Noble Phantasm more, which means you're going to be doing more damage overall. And it's just a pretty solid combination. Maybe not the best, but, you know, it's definitely a good option if you, maybe in like the early game or something like that, but it is a good option nonetheless. And then finally we have Hans wrapping up this list here. He's going to do pretty much the same thing as the other characters, where he will increase critical strength of Fergus as well as provide him critical stars. And then for his Noble Phantasm, he will increase the attack and defense and the star drop rate, and then he will also heal him. So, you know, overall, he's just a very solid character. Now, there is a chance to get those buffs off, but, you know, it is a pretty solid chance. So overall, you should at least get one of them. And yeah, he's just a very good character to combo with Fergus. So now moving on here to his overall star rankings. First up, for his stats, he's going to get a 2.1 out of 5. Unfortunately, him being a 3-star really doesn't help him as far as the stats go, so he's going to be a little bit towards the bottom of the list, but you're pretty much using him for his Noble Phantasm anyway, so I'm not really too concerned with his stats. Next up, for his skills, he is going to get 3 stars in his skills. I would give this a little bit of a higher ranking if his second skill didn't have that negative effect, but overall he does have a very good kit of skills. He's going to get attack, defense, and evasion. So, he's going to probably stick around pretty long in the fight and do some pretty serious damage as well. So, 3 stars overall in his skills. So next up here is going to be his Noble Phantasm, and I'm going to award him 3 stars in this as well. It is a very powerful Noble Phantasm, especially post-interlude. You're going to be doing a ton of damage with it, and I mean, that's pretty much all it is. You're going to decrease the defense, but it's pretty much a damaging Noble Phantasm, a wave clear. And then next up, for his survivability, he is also going to get 3 stars here for that. He does have those 2 defensive skills as well as the 1 evasion, so that's a pretty good thing. Unfortunately, it is only for one turn as opposed to being multiple attacks. Now, they both do have their pros and cons, but I personally do prefer the ones that you have a certain number of attacks you dodge as opposed to a single turn, because if you don't get attacked during that turn, then you pretty much just wasted the skill. However, he also does have that defense increase for 3 turns, so it kind of offsets that. So even if they don't attack him, he's still getting something out of the skill. But overall, his survivability, while it is pretty good, it's just a little bit above average. It's nothing too exceptional. So next up, for his versatility, I am going to give him 2.5 stars here. He is a pretty solid servant for like farming and things like that, or wave clears, because of his very powerful Noble Phantasm. But if you are taking him into a tougher fight or a longer fight, he's not going to contribute much as far as, support for the team. He's going to have that one Noble Phantasm that's going to do a ton of damage, but after that, he's going to be completely burnt out, and he's not going to offer anything to the team. So you are going to have like support characters and heavy support in order to make this character, succeed, and he's probably going to be the focal point of your team. So overall, it just really limits the amount of characters and teams you can make with this character. So now for his overall ranking, I am going to be giving him a 2.7. He is, like I said, pretty powerful as far as his Noble Phantasm is concerned, and he does have, 4 Buster cards in his deck. So if you do put him on a Buster team, he is going to be doing some really serious damage. But like I said, he does need a lot of support in order to make this character work really well. And outside of his Noble Phantasm, he really doesn't offer much to the team. So that's going to wrap up this character spotlight, guys. I will leave you here with Fergus's Noble Phantasm. And don't forget to check the links below to the Twitter, Twitch, Discord, and Patreon. And I will see you guys next time.